just took wild types word, they put them in molds, and then they just kind of.
Thanks for tuning in to the Todd Allbaugh Show. We're going to be on in about 30 seconds.
From the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. Todd Allbaugh, along with Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock on this Monday, August 18th, 2025. Glad to have you along from the world headquarters of Civic Media in downtown Madison, where it's a little wet. Drizzly skies right now. Some thunderstorms rolled through earlier. And I know, checking from the weather radar, parts of Wisconsin continue to receive wet weather today and will do so through the afternoon, at least parts of Wisconsin. Some of those storms may be heavy rain, and of course, much of Wisconsin, if not most of Wisconsin, does not need that, especially our friends in WAUK listening area in southeast Wisconsin. Continue to keep it here. We'll monitor the situation, but it's been a wet weekend. Stayed inside, Aaron Zommers, most of the weekend. As I said I would, it was hippie moving weekend, sale, sleep on the streets.
Christmas,
That's it. Hippie Christmas in Madison this weekend. Lots of the student rent contracts, agreements are up for 13th, 14th, 15th of August. So, as I said, I did not venture downtown this weekend, did you?
I did not. No. The most notable thing that happened to me is my roommate, who's a Cubs fan, was like, suck it. You guys finally lost and we won. We're only 8 games behind. I'm like, yeah, 8 games. And you know what? I'm so sad that we had a record-breaking 14-game win streak. You just can't win them all.
Right? In case you missed it, as Zommers touched on there, the winning streak finally came to an end for the Brewers. But what a weekend. Friday and Saturday. Fantastic games. We're going to hear the calls. Another unsung, unknown hero, Andrew Monasterio. There we go. Had a brain freeze for a second. Andrew Monasterio was a 3-run home run king on Saturday night. Got the Brewers the win. It was fantastic. But yeah, 14 was all the Brewers could muster, as if that's not something.
That's it. Just
longest
14.
Winning streak in Milwaukee Brewers franchise history. So that was just a lot of fun. They lost yesterday. Maybe should have won it, but they lost in extra innings yesterday to Cincinnati. The Reds have not lost a series this year, have been swept by a series, I should say, this year. Only team, I believe, in Major League Baseball to accomplish that. Brewers right now in the first game of a doubleheader on many of our stations across the network on the Brewers Radio Network. Brewers down in Chi-Town and taking on the Cubbies. And last check, I did not see a score, although I think my feed is a little bit behind. So I'll update that, and I will give you the current score here in just a minute. Oh, the Brewers are up. Brewers are up 1-0 in the bottom of the third. So there you go. We'll continue to monitor that. The Brewers across the over-the-air signal. We cannot stream them on the app, but over-the-air signal on many of these fine Civic Media stations. So Brewers starting off a 5-game series in Chicago today. Going to go a long way, as Zommers said. Brewers up 8 right now on the Cubs and trying to make it 9 by the end of this first game. We shall see. Busy day. Glad to have you along with us. Lots to get to in hour number 2. Going to talk about oil pipeline going through parts of northern Wisconsin, what that means to people up there and the entire state. Going to be talking to some people from Clean Wisconsin in hour number 2 on that. And coming up here at the bottom of this hour, going to be talking with one of the great reporters at Wisconsin Watch, Noe Goldhaber, is going to be here. And this is interesting. Headline, budget deal, i.e. the state budget deal, deals $15 million in earmarks for Robin Voss's district, highlighting a politicization of Wisconsin's conservation funding. So as you know, one of the things I care a lot about, conservation, and the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund was not funded in this budget, I believe for the first time. Couldn't find the money. $4 trillion surplus, couldn't find the money. $4 billion, sorry. That'd be quite something. $4 billion surplus in the state budget, and they couldn't find any money for the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund. But somehow, they found $15 million for Robin Voss's district. We'll find out what's popping with Robin Voss at the end of at the bottom part of this hour. Also, a little what's worse for you coming up here in hour number 2 as well. And of course, your phone calls at 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Oh, and this across the wires this morning. News Maxi Pad. It's Newsmax. You know that the right wing now remember, here a while back, Fox News paid like 87 or almost a trillion, or 800 and some odd million, almost $1 billion.
Right.
800 and some million dollars Fox News paid out in a defamation lawsuit because they lied about the 2020 election because they claimed it was rigged and all that. Turned out wasn't true. And this is the thing. When you go into court depositions under oath where there's penalty of being jailed if you're proven to be a liar, people tend to tell the truth. And it turned out that Fox admitted, no, we're an entertainment company. Hannity had to admit, no, I made that up just to get ratings, and it wasn't true. Well, here now, another right-wing news organization, News Maxi Pad. No, just Newsmax. I like that. News Maxi Pad, because there's a lot of stuff to clean up on that show. If you're
not wrong.
If you watch it. Newsmax is now having to pay out their own settlement. $67 million to settle a lawsuit accusing it of defaming a voting equipment company by spreading lies about President Donald Trump's 2020 election loss. So there you go. Once again, when you get people in a court, in depositions, under oath, with penalty of being jailed, they tend to tell the truth.
Are you telling me that Newsmax has had misleading information on their broadcasts?
It appears that's what I don't know why they'd pay $67 million if they didn't. But yeah, that turns out to be the case. But here's where I want to start today. And this was, I was going to start somewhere else. There was another very serious story over the weekend in both the Wisconsin State Journal and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel on the University of Wisconsin athletic department. And hopefully we can get to that tomorrow, because you guys know, people that listen to this show, fewer bigger Badger fans than me. But this story is really important, and it accuses the former Badger women's basketball coach. 5 former players now have joined a lawsuit against Coach Mosley for verbal abuse and creating bad mental health conditions. And also, I believe the former assistant athletic director, Justin Dougherty, is accused in this lawsuit as well. Really serious stuff. And we're going to get to that, like I say, tomorrow. But breaking news here in the last hour and a half or so, and I want to get to this. There was a press conference this morning in the White House in Washington, D.C., in the Oval Office. President Donald Trump, along with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. As you might recall, the last White House meeting between the two did not go great. Lots of consternation and conflict. Donald Trump met with Russian President Putin on Friday in Alaska to negotiate the end of the war against Ukraine. Essentially, it was a big nothing burger. Really, nothing came out of that meeting except embarrassment. And oh, by the way, Trump administration officials left classified meeting notes on a HP printer in one of the hotel rooms.
You can't make this stuff
up. You can't make it up. So there's that. But really, I mean, it was just an embarrassment for American foreign policy. It gave Trump legitimacy, or Putin legitimacy. It was a terrible look for the United States in the world environment. So anyway, Trump decided to invite Zelensky to the White House today. And by the way, other European leaders. So this time it's not just Zelensky. The other leaders were not in the Oval Office for this dog and pony show. But I think the UK, Germany, France, Other leaders are here as well. I watched it on CBS, the special report, and I watched the post-game show, as we might say, with the CBS pundits afterwards. And this is not a knock on those people because executives are the ones that control this stuff. Producers at that level. And all they focused on was, again, largely the nothing burger on Ukraine in this meeting. The real news that came out of this was what Donald Trump said about elections in the United States of America. He started off when Zelensky was asked, will you commit to holding elections in Ukraine? And Zelensky said, absolutely. As soon as we end the war, we'll have elections, free, fair elections, because you can't have a war or you can't have an election that's legitimate if a large portion of your country isn't able to vote because they are being threatened by being killed, which prompted Donald Trump to jump in. Here's what Trump said a little while ago in the Oval Office about elections in the United States of America in 2028.
Legal elections.
So you say
ready.
during the war you can't have elections. So let me just say 3.5 years from now. So you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections? Oh, that's good. I wonder what the fake
You like
news
this
is.
idea?
No, this is
No.
Speaking of news, I got a question for you. This sounds insane.
So Trump tried to make a joke out of it. So when Zelensky said, look, we can't have elections right now because we're in the middle of a war, and a lot of our citizens wouldn't be able to vote, so it wouldn't be a legitimate election if you can't have everybody that's eligible vote. Trump used the moment to say, oh, wait a minute, hold on. So what you're saying there, if you're at war, you can't have, so you're saying in 3 years, if we're into something here, we won't be able to have elections. Good. He said good. And then looked out and said, well, but the press will have a heyday with that or something.
And then Zelensky laughed along, feeling like he had to, and was like, yeah, no.
Because he felt he had to. I have been talking about this on this program for months, all the way back into last year's elections. I believe, Zombers keep me honest, that I said if this guy gets a second term, he will do everything he can not to have free and fair elections in this country in order to stay in power. Did I not?
You and other people you've had on this show have said that.
And a lot of people laughed us off and said, oh, you're being extreme. He's just saying things. He's not really serious. We've seen this playbook before on other issues. Donald Trump tries to make a joke about something, then it becomes kind of serious, then it becomes very serious, and then he does it. The fact that the sitting president of the United States in the Oval Office in front of a nationally televised special report would suggest that he is not committed to holding free and fair elections in 2028 is startling and shocking. And the fact that I've been saying this for a long time, that his goal is to have this set up, whether it's Iran, who knows? He wants to have some sort of conflict ready to go so that he can say, wait a minute, all those Democrats who supported Zelensky and you agreed with him that you can't have elections if you're at war, well, we can't have elections now. Which, of course, is ludicrous. If you look back at all the wars and conflicts this country has been in, we have been able to maintain and continue elections even during wartime. Significant to note that other than the Civil War and the attack on Pearl Harbor, none of those wars have been fought on U.S. soil. We're going to come back because Trump did not stop there. In fact, something even more concerning, in my opinion, and it could have an effect right here in Wisconsin in the 2026 election. We'll hear it in Trump's own words. Don't go anywhere. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
I'm Harbin here. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX. Are you ready to crack open something amazing? Whether it's a fresh pistachio or the keys to your dream home, we've got you covered. Just like pistachios, the best homes are worth the wait. And once you find the perfect one, it is so satisfying. At Aaron Weber Group, we help you find homes that are as irresistible as a handful of pistachios. So whether you're house hunting or just snacking, remember, great things come in shells and in the perfect 4 walls. Call Aaron Weber Group, powered by Compass, today, and let's get you into a home that's a real treat.
Craft cocktails, live events, a playground for the kids, and yes, self-serve instant ramen bar and drag bingo. It's all at Downdrin's Distilling in Cottage Grove. It's not your average tasting room. Pet-friendly, family-friendly, flavor-packed. Visit downdrins.com or stop by today.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. In early August, massive flooding hit southeastern Wisconsin in what some are calling a 1,000-year rain event. One Milwaukee County official even likened it to experiencing a hurricane. Because of that, it is imperative that elected officials and public institutions step up and help people in this hour of need. We've seen a tremendous amount of support from first responders all over the region, and we should all be grateful for their dedicated work. Beyond taking care of these immediate needs, we need to be making sure our infrastructure in the region is built to withstand greater amounts of rainfall coming due to climate change. Many of the wettest years in Milwaukee's history have occurred over the last decade. Reports have indicated that Milwaukee's Green Seams program, implemented after floods in 1997, helped mitigate some of the damage from recent flooding. We need more programs like that if we're going to build for a safer, more resilient future.
Find all of Dan's work at the recombobulation area.
An unsuspecting driver at a gas station in Wisconsin.
Welcome, Pump 15. How you doing?
Great.
Were you wearing your seatbelt today?
I never wear my seatbelt.
We're going to get him. We're going to get him real good.
Oh my goodness.
Hello, sir. How you doing? Dollar driver. It takes 1 second to strap the
25
seatbelt on.
seconds.
Well, let's do this. Let's do it together. Now, don't that...
Doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 22 now, past the hour of 2 o'clock on Monday, August 18th. Coming up after the bottom of the hour, Wisconsin Watch reporter Noe Goldhaber is in with a great story from Wisconsin Watch today. Several conservation projects got vetoed by Governor Tony Evers in the last state budget because it earmarked certain projects, but it did not fund the Knowles-Nelson Bipartisan Stewardship Fund, which, of course, has been one of the pet projects of former Republican Governor Tommy Thompson and Democratic Governor Jim Doyle for years. But Republicans did not want to fund it. And Evers, though, did let $15 million in projects go through earmarks, i.e. pork, for Robin Vos. We'll discuss that after the bottom of the hour. Right now, talking about the press conference this morning, the presser, the gaggle, if you will, of national media in the Oval Office. President Donald Trump, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and Trump. The news was not really Ukraine. The news coming out of that meeting was, one, Trump trying to make a joke saying that, hey, if you're saying that Ukraine can't hold elections because they're at war, hey, what if we were at war in 2028? I guess we wouldn't be able to hold elections. And then he said, good. And then said, well, let's see what the press does with this. Remember Trump's pattern. He jokes about it, then it's serious, then he does it. More concerning to me is what he said next, announcing a new executive order. And remember, before we listen to this, current Wisconsin Republican Party chairman, Brian Arthur Schimming, made mail-in early voting a key foundation of the Wisconsin Republican Party election strategy last time around. And I applauded him for it. Hey, I want every eligible United States citizen to vote, and I think it should be made easier to legally vote. And so I thought, hey, you know what? That's great. Good on Shimming and good on Republicans for encouraging more people to vote and for using mail-in balloting, which is 100% legal. Here now, the current president of the United States, Republican Donald Trump, from the Oval Office this morning.
Real quickly, you pushed out on social media.
Brian, go first.
You pushed out on social media about doing away with mail-in ballots and potentially electronic voting machines. Can you expand on that and how important
Well,
that is?
that's a very off-topic, just really quickly. Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened. Massive fraud all over the place. The other thing we want change are the machines. For all of the money they spend, it's approximately 10 times more expensive than paper ballots. And paper ballots are very sophisticated with the watermark paper and everything else. We would get secure elections. We'd get much faster results. The machines, I mean, they say we're going to have the results in 2 weeks. With paper ballots, you have the results that night. Most people, but most people, many countries use paper ballots. It's the most secure form.
Donald Trump announcing he is going to sign an executive order banning mail-in voting in the United States of America. He says, quote, you can never have a democracy with mail-in ballots, unquote. That's false, because eliminating mail-in ballots excludes veterans serving overseas, military serving overseas, should say, the elderly and disabled who can't get there, who have to do mail-in ballots. They can't participate in democracy. Trump also says, quote, with paper ballots, you get the results that night, unquote. False. It would take weeks or months to add up all the results. And Trump says, quote, we're the only country in the world that uses them, unquote. False. 22 countries in the world use mail-in ballots. Immediately after he said this, Republican Brian Stile, chair of the House Administration Committee, which oversees federal elections from Wisconsin, after President Trump said he wants to get rid of mail-in ballots and highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines, unquote, Congressman Stile tweeted, quote, American elections should be free, fair, and secure. I look forward to working with President Trump to address concerns and maintain the integrity of our elections, unquote. Brian Stile has bought in hook, line, and sinker to the corruption of suppressing the vote and stealing Americans' elections. I want to get to this last cut here. Quickly, here's Trump on saying ending mail-in ballots is more important to him than redistricting.
We got to stop mail-in voting, and the Republicans have to lead the charge. The Democrats want it because they have horrible policy. If you have mail-in voting, you're not going to have many Democrats get elected. That's bigger than anything having to do with redistricting, believe me.
Donald Trump admitting it out loud that, hey, if you don't have mail-in ballots, it's going to be pretty hard for Democrats to get elected. Why? Because people who vote Democratic tend to use mail-in balloting, early voting more. And that's why the chairman of the Wisconsin Republican Party, Brian Arthur Shimming, got smart. And he said, wait a minute, if we want to compete with Democrats in Wisconsin, we have to up our early mail-in voting. And he made a real concerted effort to do that, and I applaud him. Now his own president is calling that practice corrupt and saying he will sign an executive order that ends the practice. Democracy has never been more at risk, my friends, than now. Come back, take a couple of your phone calls. Do not hang up. We see you on the line. Then talk a little bit about what's popping with Robin Voss. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show for the world headquarters of Civic Media on the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, Gene and Joe and whoever else you can
And
hear
Charles.
me. And Charles. I think you can hear me. So I want to take your calls because this is really important. But my only ask to all of you is when we go to you, if you can be as succinct as possible, because I want to get to this story on Robin Voss as well. So please hold through the break. We'll take you in order, Gene, Joe, and Charles. And I want to hear what you have to say. But again, if you can be succinct, that will help us out. Thank you so much.
And while you're getting set up, I will make sure they heard what you said. So.
If the gray wolf is delisted, Wisconsin Agriculture has a voice on that committee. Bob Mitchell is a cattleman in Crawford County, senior partner at Spring Creek Cattle Company, and a member of the DNR's Wolf Advisory Committee. He said they're taking a look at all kinds of control options, some of which might be a little pricey.
There's several different options as to how to manage them and control them. And none of them are cheap, especially when you're talking about infrastructure, fencing, or other methods. The noise is one, noise abatement, some of those kinds of things. Those things are all expensive, and maybe their effectiveness is somewhat in question. So that's the things that I think that an advisory committee will be needing to discuss.
Bob Mitchell, cattle producer from Crawford County and a member of the Wolf Advisory Committee for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. He's joined on that committee by representatives from conservation, tribal nations, wildlife management, and other interest groups.
When hot weather strikes your cattle, milk production drops and feed intakes decrease. Summer heat also impacts the quality of your herd's reproduction. Protect your cows and grow your bottom
we'll come back here.
Add BioVet's bovine gold light to
story
your
on,
cow's daily ration.
Trump breaking.
Bovine gold light keeps the herd hydrated,
that,
maintains milk
wants to do
production,
away with mail-in
and keeps your
voting
breeding
because
program in
they
check.
don't want to do it.
Learn more about
So
bovine gold
we got a
light
couple
at
calls here. I'm going to try to get through
bio-vet.com.
these quickly and we'll go to you.
Okay. Do
All right.
you want me to have my headphones on? Or?
Yeah.
Farmers and ranchers across the country trust Can-Am because of how they build, support, and stand behind their machines. Now they're backing that trust with even more. Get 24 months of coverage when you purchase select Defender and Outlander models through the Can-Am Agricultural and Business Program. That's how confident they are in the durability of their units. That's not all. You also get a rebate up to $3,500. Give your fleet the upgrade it deserves. Visit the Can-Am website to learn more about the program. Offer ends October 31st. Certain conditions apply. See dealer for details.
And despite being shorted by a day, the Wisconsin State Fair had great attendance records again this year, according to officials there. Attendance for the 10 days of the Wisconsin State Fair totaled up to more than 892,000 visits. And while they were there, they enjoyed some great food. More than 31,000 potatoes consumed at the Wisconsin Products Pavilion. Over 330,000 original cream puffs enjoyed this year. That's just a quick update on what's happening in food and farming news on a Monday. I am Farm Director Pam Yankee.
As Wisconsin is brats on the grill for a tailgate, this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Mostly cloudy with rounds of rain expected today. Thunderstorms are likely, and some could have torrential downpours that could create flash flooding. High, gusty winds are possible too. As they wind down overnight, we dry things out for the rest of the week. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Right now, it's 71 degrees.
Hey, Gordy, did you know Dane County Humane Society is calling on our community to help find new homes for every available animal as part of the nationwide Clear the Shelters adoption campaign running through August?
I did, John. I also heard to encourage adoptions, Dane County Humane Society will offer reduced adoption fees for a different animal group each week, leading up to a special adoption finale event on Saturday, August 23rd.
Well, that's great. Animal shelters across the country, including here in Dane County, are facing unprecedented challenges with slower adoptions, high intake of strays and surrendered pets, and limited resources. Shelters are working harder than ever to care for these animals.
DCHS is proud to serve thousands of animals each year, not just through adoption, but also by reuniting.
And do you want to use the what's poppin'? Not right away, but
yeah, we'll we'll use that while I turn the camera.
Yeah, whenever you call for it. Sounds good.
fun doing it. Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is Monday, August 18:35 now, past the hour of 2 o'clock. Glad to have you along. Zommers on the board. Going to find out what's happening with what's popping with Robin Vos here in a minute. Very interesting news at the state level. And was Governor Evers complicit in it? We will find out from Wisconsin Watch in just a minute. But I want to finish this up because this is really important. And breaking late this morning, early afternoon, meeting in the Oval Office, Donald Trump with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The premise was this meeting they're having this afternoon with European leaders on trying to find a peace solution in Ukraine after Trump's basic grandstanding meeting in Alaska on Friday with Putin. But the real news, in my opinion, coming out of this meeting was A, Donald Trump making, seemingly trying to pawn it off as a joke about not having elections in 2028 if the United States were involved in a war like Ukraine is in an actual war. Zelensky saying, sure, I'm all for elections, but we have to have peace first. So Trump tried to use that to telegraph that, hey, you know, if we're in a war in 2028, we don't have elections. And then said, quote, good, unquote. Then he went on to say, we played the cut before the break, Trump did, that he's working on and plans to sign an executive order ending mail-in balloting in this country. And saying, well, if you don't have mail-in balloting, it makes it pretty hard for Democrats to win. Which, of course, if you don't have mail-in balloting, makes it also hard for people in nursing homes, elderly people who use mail-in balloting, absentee balloting. Also makes it hard for active duty military stationed overseas. Also makes it hard for college students and a lot of other folks. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. By the way, Trump also said this issue, ending mail-in balloting, is more important than redistricting for both he and the Republican Party. Let's go quickly, if we can, ask our callers who have been patiently waiting to hold to make it brief as we can, because I want to get to this story on Robin Vos. But we start up in Chippewa Falls area in Eau Claire on WCFW The Tap. Gene in Eau Claire. Gene, thanks for calling. What's the
important? Thank you for sharing. DJT is and followers, Republicans are the weapons of mass deception and destruction of our democracy in America, and people need to wake up. And thank you very much. Great job. Bye.
Thanks, Gina. I appreciate it. 855-752-4842. Let's go to Joe listening in Madison on WMDX. Joe, thanks for holding. What say you?
Important to note that Trump raised this idea of an end to mail-in balloting after having this conversation with Putin up in Anchorage, claiming that Putin said that questioned the accuracy and security of mail-in ballots. Note also that Russia allows mail-in balloting. So pretty comical that his dear pal is offering him instructions on how we should run our elections. Who better than Putin to give information on our elections? Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Really important point. Appreciate that. You're absolutely right that Putin did bring this up in Alaska, and apparently Trump got his marching orders. Also important to note, as we did before the break, Wisconsin Congressman Brian Stile, who is the chair of the House Administration Committee, which oversees federal elections, tweeted out after Trump said this, his agreement, his commitment to support President Trump. And according to the Tennessee Holler, a great publication online, U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee tweeted the following, quote, honest, fair elections are the bedrock of our democracy. I stand with President Trump in ensuring our elections have integrity, unquote. And she retweeted his Truth Social post in which he basically said everything that he said in the press conference to get rid of mail-in balloting. Also important to remember that Wisconsin Republican Party Chairman Brian Arthur Schimming committed just last year to doing more mail-in voting, saying that was the way forward. Be interesting, and I invited him on today's show in all sincerity, so we give him time. I've not heard back yet. Let's go quickly to Charles in Milwaukee at WMD AUK. Charles, thanks for holding. What say you?
Hey, Todd. Well, Joe stole my thunder because, he got that idea from Putin about the mail-in voting, and all of a sudden he's running with it. I don't understand these other politicians that know that it's not true, that there is no cheating with mail-in with mail-in voting. But I guess they're so scared of him that they'll bend the knees whenever it suits them to try to keep the power. It's all about staying in power and putting other people down. And I'll never understand that about this country.
Yeah. Appreciate the call. Appreciate listening, Charles. Thank you so very much. Rest of the folks, we'll try to get you in hour 2 right now. It's 20 minutes before the hour of 3 o'clock. Time once again for What's Poppin' with Robin Voss.
Love to hear the robin go tweet, 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 rockin' Robin. Tweet, tweet, rockin' Robin.
Time once again for our ongoing recurring segment, What's Poppin' with Robin Voss. Glad to have you along, everybody, and glad to have you along with our great reporters from Wisconsin Watch. Joining me here at the table in our Madison World Headquarters studios, Noe Goldhaber from Wisconsin Watch. Noe, thanks for standing by a couple of minutes there for breaking news. How you been?
Good. How have you been?
Doing absolutely excellent. Thank you very much. The Brewers are still up. Last I checked, by a score of 1-0 on the Cubs. So if the Brewers can pull this first game off, I'll be even happier. Let's get to this really important story of yours. Speaking of breaking news, headline in today's Wisconsin Watch. You can find all of Noe's work and others at wisconsinwatch.org. That's wisconsinwatch.org. Headline, budget deals $15 million in earmarks for Robin Voss's district, highlight the politicization of Wisconsin's conservation funding. So tell us a little bit. I'm just going to read a couple of the lines here and then let you get into it from your story. Sure. It says, after Republican legislators declined to reauthorize the Knowles-Nelson Stewardship Fund in the state budget, Democratic Governor Tony Evers vetoed 5 natural resources projects, criticizing the legislature for choosing, quote, to benefit the politically connected few, unquote, instead of supporting stewardship throughout the state or through the statewide fund. However, jumping down to the next paragraph, you write, Evers didn't veto other natural resource projects, including 2 totaling $15 million in Assembly Speaker Robin Voss's district in southeastern Wisconsin, west of Racine. Asked why Evers spared those projects, his spokesperson, Britt Cutterback, referred Wisconsin Watch without specifics to the agreement between Evers and the legislative leadership that cemented the $111 billion 2-year budget. It's interesting to me that when the governor's office wants something to be known, they're very chatty. And Britt Cutterback loves to talk to the press, but when they're asked pointed questions by good reporters, they don't have a lot to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only 2 natural resources projects that were in the state budget agreement were both in Voss's district. So I think that, she directed us to the information that kind of got us answered our questions, but didn't provide specifics on like what went down on negotiations or why that might have been the case.
I mean, and this is great reporting, by the way. Kudos to you.
Thanks.
You're very welcome. And I applaud the governor for saying, no, we're not doing a bunch of earmarks here, because I said this at the top of the show. Explain to folks a little bit, if you would, the Knowles-Nelson Stewardship Fund first. Let's set that as the base. What is that? And it's been bipartisan.
Yeah, it's been bipartisan, and it's been in Wisconsin politics for a long time. I think it started in 1989. So like over 30 years that this program has existed in the state, and it allows like government funding and bonding to be used to purchase state lands for recreation, for stewardship nonprofits to be able to get grants to do that. And yeah, so it's just a long-standing, and I would say like polling indicates pretty popular program in the state that allows our state land to be preserved.
And what's interesting is in 1989, of course, you're much too young, but Governor Tommy Thompson was governor at the time. And this is a pet project of his. We've had Tia Nelson on this program, the daughter of former Governor and U.S. Senator Gaylord Nelson. And she has lauded the former Republican governor and said, look, this was really important to Tommy. This is really important to Jim Doyle, former Democratic governor, and also Republicans and Democrats in the state legislature.
Yeah, totally.
Did you get any indication in your reporting, Noe, on who killed the funding for Knowles-Nelson Stewardship Fund in this budget?
It's unclear. I don't have like a concrete answer on what that would have looked like. I do think it is somewhat notable that the two JFC vice chairs are the ones who introduced the legislation to reauthorize Knowles Nelson. So there is a separate bill proposal to reauthorize Knowles Nelson in kind of the fall legislative session, even though it didn't come out of the state budget. So Republicans are saying like it wasn't one of the things that we were able to accomplish through the state budget, but we're still committed to doing it in a maybe different capacity that it's been in the past because of the state Supreme Court decision, which I get into a little bit in the article.
Why don't we, by the way, we're talking to Noe Goldhaber from Wisconsin Watch on her great work here, article in wisconsinwatch.org on the fact that the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund was not funded in the state budget. Governor Evers vetoed out earmarks, but yet there's a major earmark specifically for Robin Voss's district. Get into that a little bit more. We have a couple minutes here before the break, and then we'll go on.
Sure. So the earmarks in Voss's district?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are two different projects in Voss's district. One is the Echo Lake Dam. It's a dam that's in a 500-year floodplain. And I guess a few years ago, officials in Burlington were thinking about taking out the dam. So it just needs, the dam itself needs some upgrades. It's also on a lake that, needs some changes as well. And then there's also a dredging project in Voss's district as well that received $5 million. So that's to like get rid of sediment that's impacting, I guess, like recreation and stuff like that. Total of $15 million in the district for these projects.
And look, I'm a big pro conservation person. I don't know the specifics about these projects. You just laid it out here verbally. You put it in your great piece. I'll take Representative Voss and anybody else at their word. Mm-hmm. These might well be good projects to fund. My interest is, why is it that Speaker Voss's projects are the only ones that got approved and not the Stewart or the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, which would have, addressed conservation throughout the state?
Yeah, and that is kind of the article goes into this a little bit, but there's kind of a system of which projects are assessed through Knowles Nelson. How close is it to a city center? Because public recreation is an important aspect of that fund. I'm forgetting all the other criteria, but potential ecological benefits, things of that sort. So the DNR has a scoring system they use to evaluate different projects across the state and figure out which ones would be the best spent money for the state government. And so that's kind of the process that Knowles Nelson uses. And obviously earmarks are a different kind of form of that.
We just start this now, and I want to come back to something that I messed up earlier. It's my fault. This state Supreme Court decision complicating this reauthorization for the Knowles Nelson. Explain that, and if we don't have time to finish it, we'll finish it on the other side. Go ahead.
Okay, for sure. So the state Supreme Court made a decision not this previous July, but the July before. There used to be this system where legislators on JFC could anonymously block projects that were approved for Knowles Nelson funding. There's a big Wisconsin Watch story about that in our past archives. And the state Supreme Court said that was like infringing on the approval. Okay.
That's fine. Well, my fault. I asked the question too close to the music. See, we'll come back. Yeah, this is really important, and I think it just shows the fairness in your reporting. Come back, talk to Noe Goldhaber from Wisconsin Watch. After this, you're listening to a Monday edition of the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Monday edition because I can't talk very well. Sorry.
No, it was great. I'm like not trained enough. I should
No. I should have given you more time towards the break because I think this is really, really important to pick that up.
Yeah.
Savings on top of our factory direct pricing. That's double the savings on your new
It was cool to see the callers come in. I've never seen the behind
the
scenes.
Really?
Yeah, I mean I've obviously listened to radio shows with callers before, but
we have good ones. We have great ones.
Yeah, I know a lot of people know what's going on.
And get savings on top of savings during Verlo's Mega Mattress Sale. Wake up, sleep better. Verlo.
Get ready, Madison. Elsa's own Jarocho is
So
now
we'll
open
go to
and
the
Todd
Supreme
Price,
Court
five-star
reauthorization,
authentic
Okay.
Mexican
and
cuisine,
then maybe
fresh,
pick up on
homemade,
this,
and
the
best
fact that
prices
it's
in
quote
town.
unquote totally uncharted territory, the
Yeah.
future
Sure.
of that. I'll bring it up. I know you can't necessarily get partisan answers. You just basically reporting. I mean, it seems like to me this was a payoff by Evers to Voss to get him to agree to a lot of the stuff of the other parts of the budget.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
hey,
I think
here's your gift.
it's notable that it was the only thing in the agreement. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then that'll probably be it. So great job.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well,
It's so
thank
much
you.
fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
Louisiana's population is over 31%.
Always great to have people, visitors in the studio, folks. Because usually I'm just sitting in this room by myself, and Zommers is behind glass.
Hey, better than it used to be.
Yes,
It used to be behind at least one. Was it just one wall?
Yeah, one thick wall.
Yeah, we could only see each other via, the stream.
Right.
It was an old dentist office, not actually built to be a radio studio. So it was interesting.
The state's argument that majority-minority districts were no longer necessary, and that VRA rules needed to be refreshed by Congress.
Space you guys have.
I love looking out on State Street. That's the best.
Yeah, and it's like a block from the Capitol on State Street. Can't get better.
Right? We're very fortunate.
Within hours of the decision, though, another Fifth Circuit judge issued a stay for the state legislative maps until the pending congressional map case is heard before a less VRA-friendly U.S. Supreme Court. We have the decision and more on both cases at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal. Find us on Facebook at Democracy Minute.
Skilled trade workers are the backbone of every community, and also the Army National Guard. Soldiers trained to keep the power flowing, engines running.
No, PJ did not have dental office smells, but it did have like the hardware for like the X-ray machine and everything that would be on the ceiling.
Yeah, all the mounts and stuff.
Yeah, the mounts. Yeah,
weird holes in the floor. Covered up, but still there.
And if you were there at night, alone, working, you could hear the eerie sounds of.
I think you have tinnitus. Anyway, 20 seconds.
Media Radio Network. It is 8 minutes before the hour of 3 o'clock, the top of the hour. News, weather, sports for you. Mike Clemens monitoring the Brewers game. At last check, they were still ahead of the Cubs. Down in Chicago, the first game of a doubleheader, 1-0. We'll continue to check on that. Now
2-0.
Now 2, as Amber says. Fantastic. Brewers up on the Cubs 2-0. Clemens will be following that for us and all the other sports. Then in hour 2, a what's worse for you. And then talk about a little pipeline up in the northern Wisconsin and the details on that. Full hour 2, but right now we're honored to be joined here in studio at the desk by Wisconsin Watch's Noe Goldhaber. A great story in today's WisconsinWatch.org. Dial it up on the internet, WisconsinWatch.org. Great story here, Noe, on the fact that in the latest state budget, there was a $15 million earmark for conservation specifically in Republican Speaker Robin Voss's district. However, the bipartisan Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, started in part by former Republican Governor Tommy Thompson, zero funding for that. And the governor vetoed other earmarks, or pork as we used to call it, for other districts on conservation, but Voss has stayed in there. And again, I really applaud you and Wisconsin Watch for doing honest, balanced, fair reporting, because I think this is an important detail. A state Supreme Court decision complicated the reauthorization of the Knowles Nelson Stewardship. I cut you off there going to the break. Explain that, please, for our listeners, because this is really important.
Yeah, totally. So there was a state Supreme Court decision a little over a year ago that basically made it so that the system in which if Knowles Nelson funding was approved through the DNR, so like they said, this district or this project will get $1 million, legislators on the Joint Finance Committee could block it and get rid of it anonymously. So it wasn't clear even who blocked the project or why. And the state Supreme Court ruled against that and said that that was like legislative overreach if it was already approved funding through the budget to have that funding out there, that legislators could not veto and use the anonymous pocket veto in that way. So yeah.
So joint finance, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Republican members of the Joint Finance Committee are using that decision and saying that precluded them from including the funding for Knowles Nelson in this budget, or do I have that wrong?
Mostly correct. I think they were saying that they're supportive of Knowles Nelson and what it's done across the state, but that it's kind of given them trust issues because there's less oversight now from legislators over where that funding is going to be dispersed because the mechanism that previously was under, I guess, is illegal now.
And of course, I would say to my former party, that's the way it was before, and we didn't have a problem with it. So I don't understand their apprehension now. But I know you're not here to defend them, but that's just my take to them. In fairness, Republicans, at least many of them on joint finance, have said, to your point earlier, that they want to look at separate funding in a separate bill for Knowles Nelson this fall.
Yeah. Representative Kurtz and Senator Teston have introduced legislation to reauthorize Knowles Nelson. So yeah, it's something that even though it didn't happen in the state budget, which has been the precedent for the last 30 plus years, they've, it being Republicans in the majority party have said, we want to do this. We just are going to address it later.
What it looked like to me from an outsider who doesn't work in the building anymore, what it looks like to the average person is that this was kind of, hey, Robin, from the governor, what's it going to take to let you pass this? Why don't I give you $15 million for your district? It looks like a payoff, or at least an approval from the governor in order to get an agreement on this budget.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say like what exactly or why it was. Those funds were included. It definitely was asked to both Foss's office and the governor's, but I don't have any greater answer as to why only those funds were included and not others.
As a former politico who ran elections, I can tell you, when you get these kind of details, it is not surprising nor unexpected that the governor would not run for a third term when you find out things like this. Let's go to this finally here. Some of the people in your story are calling the current situation of no funding for Knowles Nelson currently, quote, unprecedented.
Yeah. So the funding expires at the end of next June. So there's still a little bit of time. And I think that was part of the reason they also said that they weren't going to reauthorize it in this budget. They have time to address it in the fall, if they choose to pass budget. But yeah, so we haven't come out of a budget cycle previously without reauthorizing Knowles Nelson when its funding was set to expire. So it is uncharted territory. And because, nonprofits, local governments are trying to plan projects and Knowles Nelson is a big funding piece in that project, they don't know whether to be able to plan and rely on that funding because it's not set in stone that that's something that's going to be renewed come the fall. So I think for like planning purposes and conservation projects in the state, it kind of has jumbled the landscape a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. And like we said, in private business, and some of these things do affect private business or in public, the uncertainty. It's what's so difficult for people who actually are trying to work on conservation projects, whether it's a boat dock or a scrape for a water project, whatever it is. So
yeah,
we'll continue to be watching that. Noe, what did I not ask you in a minute we have left that's important about this story?
It's like the classic journalist ending question. I feel like we hit all of the main points of the story. I think it is important to note that like they do have time. This is going to be a major issue that legislators are going to look towards in the fall, and also that as people are running for re-election in the next cycle, it's going to be, did you vote to reauthorize Knowles Nelson? So I think this is definitely like an issue that we're going to see continuing, and yeah.
I think that's a great point, because people that thought, well, all the excitement is over in the Capitol now that the budget is passed. We got some ahead politically here after Labor Day when people actually come back to the building.
Right, definitely.
It can be again, congrats, great reporting at wisconsinwatch.org. That's wisconsinwatch.org. Noe Goldhaber, thank you very much for your reporting.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Thanks for coming in. Always great to have you folks here, and encourage everyone to go to wisconsinwatch.org to look at Noe's work and everyone else's as well. Come on back for hour number 2, a little what's worse for you on the other side. And then some talking about northern Wisconsin's pipeline, what crude oil may be going through and what it means to Wisconsin. Don't go anywhere. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show for a Monday on the Civic Media Radio Network. Go.
This is 92.7 WMDX Columbus, Madison's home for real news and great conversation. A Civic Media station.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Michelle Franzen. At the White House, President Trump hosting Ukraine's President Zelensky and European leaders on talks to end Russia's war in Ukraine. European leaders pushing for an immediate ceasefire. President Trump says after meeting with Russia's leader in Alaska last Friday, says lasting peace is now more likely.
All of us would obviously prefer an immediate ceasefire while we work on a lasting peace, and maybe something like that could happen. As of this moment, it's not happening, but President Zelensky and President Putin can talk a little bit more about that.
The president suggested Ukraine may have to do a land swap and agree not to join NATO. ABC's Ian Pannell is in Kyiv.
We should be very cautious about using President Trump's phrase, a land swap. I mean, Ukraine doesn't really have much land to claim back from Russia. I mean, tiny sliver at best. So there's no real deal to be done there.
The president says the U.S. would offer security guarantees. This is ABC News.
Download the Civic Media app in the Google
Whenever
Play
you
or
are ready.
Apple App Store. And take us.
All right. 3, 2, and 1. Hey, everybody. Mental health continues to be an important topic. I don't like that. Three, 2, and 1. Hey, everybody. Mental health continues to be an important topic. Why do I keep going that way? 3, 2, and 1. Hey, everybody, join us next time for an important discussion on mental health and how it has now come to touch the University of Wisconsin-Madison athletic program in a new lawsuit. An important discussion next. That'll work. Thanks.
Companies can basically just pay a fine if they end up cutting down a tree. Under this proposal, city officials could reject proposals that don't adhere to tree protection plans, causing development delays. The proposal would also require construction crews work farther away from larger trees, and it would create a tree replacement fund. So every time a tree is cut down for development, money will go straight to this account to plant more in the future.
Damage to trees can take decades, if ever, to recover. So, you think about maybe a historic building too. If something were to happen and we were to lose a wall off the side of a historic building, you can't just put it back. That thing has changed forever if it ever does recover. If it were structurally unsound, it may have to be removed completely. And that's the same type of thing that can happen to these trees.
The City Council will further review the proposal next month. If implemented, these changes would take effect January 1st. Meanwhile, MG&E is working on a new solar facility which will help power Dane County. The project will be near the Nine Springs wastewater treatment plant. Officials from MG&E say once it's finished,
not 6
it'll
springs.
power 1,000 homes and offset almost 10 tons of carbon every year. The new solar plant should be operational by 2027. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is 92.7 WMDX News.
It's the Brewers and the Cubs. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball, the Brewers opening a 5-game series today in Chicago against the Cubs. Beginning with a doubleheader, the Brewers losing to the Reds yesterday 3-2 in extra innings, ending their 14-game winning streak. Jose Quintana pitched into the 7th inning before giving up a run. Manager Pat Murphy.
Q was great. Tobias was great. We put Grant Anderson in a spot that he hasn't been in a lot. And we were depleted, totally depleted, and we needed Q to do what he did, and hindsight's 2020.
NFL, the Packers beat the Colts Saturday 23-19, but they had 11 penalties just in the first half. 5 of them by rookie tackle Anthony Belton.
There's some things that we got to clean up from a technique standpoint to get him to play to the level I know he's capable of playing. I think he's a really talented guy, and we got to refine some of the mechanics.
That's Packers head coach Matt LaFleur with Sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
Local news, weather, and sports on air and streaming on the Civic Media app. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Mostly cloudy with rounds of rain expected today. Thunderstorms are likely, and some could have torrential downpours that could create flash flooding. High, gusty winds are possible too. As they wind down overnight, we dry things out for the rest of the week. I'm
Oh
meteorologist.
no, suspicious
Brittany
Apple
Marlowe.
ID
Right now,
activity.
it's
I don't
71
have an
degrees.
Apple ID.
I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show. If you're looking for honest talk, real stories, and straight-up news that matters to you, tune in to The Rick Smith Show. We're digging into the issues that affect your job, your family, your future. Join me weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network, because your voice deserves to be heard. That's The Rick Smith Show, heard weeknights at 9 right here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
For 75 years, the Muscular Dystrophy Association's voices have thundered through the
Reminds me, I
halls
gotta
of
get some new
Congress.
PSAs in
For
the system.
75 years, we've willed the impossible into existence.
For 75 years, the MDA community has pushed the science,
Shifted the narrative, and established the field of neuromuscular medicine.
And until
30
that
seconds.
day when this is all
From the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. Todd Allbaugh, along with Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board, our producer and engineer. It's 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big program. It is Monday, August 18th, 2025. It is a great day to be Wisconsinite from the world headquarters of Civic Media in downtown Madison, where you can feel it, Zommers. The vibe is starting to come with the moving in of some of the students. The University of Wisconsin-Madison, you can see more students around. The vibe is coming back. The city comes back to life at the end of August.
That it does. Though showing the Sam Davison street cam, you wouldn't know it from this image. It's just unfortunate timing.
Yeah, things are quiet because we're getting some rain downtown Madison here. As we take a look out on the Sam Davison street cam, downtown Madison, a couple of cars going by at Fairchild State. Now there comes a group of people. They have bags in hand. Looks like they may have gotten some pack. It looks like if I were to anticipate here, it looks like a mom and dad. Looks like maybe their son is a student here. They're carrying a lot of different packages. So it's that time of getting the kids settled in. Now, my sister and brother-in-law are taking my favorite youngest niece, Isabel, to the University of Wisconsin Stout next weekend to get her all settled in over at Stout. So our own family's going through that. It's that time of year when it's time to get the kids settled in. So salutations, shout out to all the parents getting their kids on their way back to college. And salute to the kids, too. It's exciting. It's an exciting time. Saw my friends Jonathan, Allison Klein last night. Their oldest child, Lauren, getting ready to come here to the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Exciting stuff.
A little scary, but also very exciting. So
yes, I'm sure that I will never forget the first day when I moved into college and you started meeting people and everyone's a little nervous, everyone's a little excited. It's just
yeah, lots of emotions, lots of good times going on. Weather forecast: rain throughout Wisconsin today. Hopefully not too much, particularly for our friends in southeast Wisconsin who have gone through way more flooding than anyone deserves. So keep the weather tuned here. We'll update you on that. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, talk to one of the staff attorneys at Clean Wisconsin about, and this is very interesting, about the pipeline, Line 5 pipeline that's scheduled to begin up in Ashland, Wisconsin, and what the ramifications, implications are of that as they continue to take public testimony. Your chance to have your voice heard on this. We'll talk to Evan from Clean Wisconsin at the bottom of the hour. Have a What's Worse coming up for you as well. First, on many of our stations, over the air, not on the stream, but over the air, Milwaukee Brewers baseball doubleheader against the Chicago Cubs, up for grabs, the NL Central. Well, Brewers currently have an 8-game lead, But 5-game series against the Cubs starting today. I can tell you that right now on many of our Brewers stations, the Cubs are up. Probably the Brewers, good gosh, Todd. The Brewers are up over the Cubs right now by a score of 3-0 in the bottom of the 6th. 3-0, bottom of the 6th. Milwaukee on top of the Cubs. We'll see if that can hold, and the Brewers could go to 9 games. The nightcap is set for a little bit later this evening. You can hear that on the Civic Media Radio Network. Also want to get to, again, just to repeat kind of the top story of the day. Earlier in the day, President Donald Trump holding a press conference, a gaggle, as they call it, a news gaggle, the Oval Office with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, kind of a nothing burger, if you want to be honest, on the news on Ukraine. The real news, Trump tried to make a joke about not having elections in 2028 if the United States were at war like Ukraine is now. And then going on, no joke at all, making it very clear, Trump did, that he is working on and intends to sign an executive order which would ban mail-in voting in the United States of America. Freely saying that, hey, if we don't have mail-in voting, it makes it hard for Democrats to win. Trump said that. Why, of course? Because Democrats tend to use that form of voting more than Republicans for whatever reason. Republican Party Chairman of Wisconsin, Brian Schimming, last year said, hey, we got to do better on this, and made it, and I saluted him and said, hey, good. I want everybody who is legally eligible, every citizen, to vote. And now Schimming's own president, head of the Republican Party, saying he thinks that mail-in voting is, quote unquote, corrupt. Also making headlines, according to the Associated Press today, the conservative network Newsmax will pay $67 million to settle a lawsuit accusing it of defaming a voting equipment company by spreading lies about President Donald Trump's 2020 election loss, according to documents filed today. The settlement comes after Fox News Channel paid $787.5 million to settle a similar lawsuit in 2023, and Newsmax paid what the court papers described as $40 million to settle a libel lawsuit from a different voting machine manufacturer, Smartmatic, who is also the target of pro-Trump conspiracy theories on the network. Delaware Superior Court Judge Eric Davis had ruled earlier that Newsmax did indeed defame, i.e. lied, about Denver-based Dominion voting systems by airing false information about the company and its equipment. Again, when places like Fox and Newsmax are put under oath in a court of law, with the penalty being jail time, people tend to tell the truth. Turns out. Let's go to the phone lines, 855-752-4842. Mark in Pernisac has been enormously patient. Mark, always appreciate your listenership. Thanks for holding on. What do you want to say?
Yeah, what does Trump plan on invading Canada or Mexico or Greenland so he has a little war so he can say, well, we don't need any elections? And it just is, it's pretty disgusting that the man is coming out and say this. Does he think he's bloody Sulla or Caesar? Both of whom the founders would know what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
That because both of them were Roman dictators, and the founders were concerned about a dictator. I mean, how the Supreme Court came up with this idea of immunity for the president is just beyond me, because even I could point out to them how full of rat manure that they are on that particular issue, because, right. And I'm not as I've said in the past, I am not a constitutional scholar.
Right.
But when you actually read in the Federalist Papers, the president would be amenable to punishment and disgrace, and you could actually impeach a president for high crimes and misdemeanors in the Constitution itself. It means the man is not immune.
Yeah.
So how they came up with this stuff, other than that they think there should be a dictator, and I wonder how long, with this kind of nonsense going on, how long that we don't decline to the taste where the president has to have a taster tasting all his food, and some of these people need to worry about getting poisoned. I mean, because that's what happens.
Well, he just hung out with Putin, right? Hung out with Putin. That stuff happens over there all the time.
Yeah, certainly. follow the window.
Yeah, right. Yeah, don't. If it feels stuffy in a meeting with Putin, don't open a window. That's the only advice I can give you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you holding. Appreciate the call. We're going to continue to follow this because, and if there's any good that came out of this White House meeting today, it's that Trump said the quiet part out loud on the record that he feels if you have mail-in voting, Democrats are going to more likely win. Gee, I wonder why that is. Because Trump himself spent all kinds of time in the first administration saying that, don't do mail-in voting. It was rigged. And then somebody got in his ear and said, wait a minute, if you want to win, we actually need to do mail-in voting. And so Brian Schimming, the Republican Party of Wisconsin, and others said, hey, we got to get our folks out there too. And you know what? They did. Not as much maybe as Democrats, but if you look at the results, a lot more Republicans voted early and voted in mail-in balloting. And that was part, not all, but part of the reason that Donald Trump got a second term. And now he wants to do away with it for the midterm elections coming up next year. It's 15 past the hour of 3 o'clock. Time once again for What's Worse. Let's go.
This or that, this or that. Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this or you
Time
can
once
get with
again
that.
for What's Worse. Nothing to give away, no prize money involved. It's just your chance to have your voice heard across all 10-ish news, talk, and sports. I say 10-ish because some of the stations are airing Milwaukee Brewers baseball over the terrestrial radio signal.
Right. So normally you'll be on 10 stations.
Right.
Today, a couple less.
A couple, 3 or 4. No. And across everywhere on the stream. All right, here we go. Timely indeed. As Mike Lucas is fond of saying at the Capital Times, a lot of people, no joke at all, of course, a lot of our listeners, particularly in Southeast, some in Southwest, quite frankly, as well, cleaning up for that terrible flooding, and boy, that's no fun at all. But aside from that, aside from tragedy and emergency cleaning, it's kind of the time of year where people are like, well, it's starting to cool off a little bit. I got to clean out the garage before winter. So today's category, what's worse, cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage? Cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage?
And we have a very evocative image here of a fridge containing. I mean, it doesn't look like the worst fridge I've ever seen. It at least looks like there's not food spilled everywhere. But there are a lot of products that are, I'm sure, expired. Meanwhile, the garage, it looks like you're sorting for a rummage sale.
Well, which we've all been there, I think. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage? 855-752-4842. Or you could text us on the Civic Media app. You can download it your Apple or Android device today. Just go to your app store, type in Civic, CIVIC, Media. It'll pop up. Takes less than a minute to download. It is free. It's what CBS's Gail King calls a deal. The way things are going at CBS, maybe we can get Gail King at some point.
Maybe.
Maybe. That'd be great. I'd love to have her as a co-host of this show. 855-752-4842. Go to the phone line. CJ in beautiful Stoughton, Wisconsin. CJ, cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage? What's worse?
Well, I like cleaning by eating the leftovers. And
do you really?
Oh, I love leftovers.
What they're doing?
Gino's lasagna. 3 days later, it gets better and better.
I would agree with that. That and chili.
I'm in all the time. I love working in the garage. So
really, do you have like a workshop?
Well, yeah. It's I have it on 4 wheels too, loaded with tools.
All right. Well, very good.
Thank you for taking my call, Todd. And yeah, I mean that's that question. But as you speak of the world peacemaker, President Donald Trump, as he tries to end Joe Biden's war. I think the mail-in balloting, yeah, we need to go to single-day balloting. And if you're going to not be able to vote, that should be held to the military.
Thanks for the opinion, CJ. Up against the clock. Come on back. What's worse, cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage? On the Civic Media Radio Network.
Conversation.
That worked out well.
92.7
It did.
WMDX.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community.
Henry and
And he
Madison
wants a
has a
partner like
point.
Granger, who does the
Depending
same.
on the garage, of course.
Granger offers the
Henry and Madison
professional-grade
cleaning the garage
products
is
he
worse
needs,
because
from
you never know
voltage
when you're
detectors to
done. Well,
harnesses
that's
to
very
hard
true.
hats, plus fast,
I mean, yeah, I guess it
dependable
depends on what your garage
So he
is
can
like.
rise
Like
to
if you have
every
a
challenge.
cement floor,
Call 1-800-GRANGER,
or if it's all
click
stained.
Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
And we got a few YouTube and
Summer
Facebook
is
comments
on
to share
at
as
Sugar
well.
River Pizza with 3 awesome locations in Sun Prairie, Verona,
Oh,
and
PJ,
New Glarus.
this is for
Grab
you.
a seat on the gorgeous patio and enjoy the breathtaking view.
Oh, back to school, back to school, to prove to Dad that I'm not a fool.
The pizza and pasta are
Little
melt
Adam
in your mouth
Sandler.
delicious. And yes, they cater. Make it a summer to savor. Only at Sugar River Pizza. SugarRiverPizza.com.
It's the Eco Minute, powered by Clean Wisconsin, your environmental voice since 1970. I'm Amy Barrio. Wisconsin's
Amy
reputation
Barrio.
as a climate haven has been shattered. First, dangerous wildfire smoke choked our skies. Now the Milwaukee area is cleaning up after storms dumped 7 to 14 inches of rain in one day. Experts say these kinds of catastrophic rain events are becoming more common with climate change. To make matters worse, most insurance policies in Wisconsin do not cover flood damage. A bear with its head stuck in a plastic jar has finally been freed. People across 3 counties in northern Wisconsin had reported seeing the bear since late July. USDA Wildlife Services finally caught up with him near Cable, Wisconsin, and were able to safely remove the jar. This week on the Defender podcast, join me for a behind-the-scenes look at what happens when you put hungry sheep on a Wisconsin solar farm. Listen at cleanwisconsin.org
30
or wherever you
Thank
get your
you.
podcasts.
There's something weird in the fridge today. I don't know what it is. Food I can't recognize. My roommate won't throw a thing away. I guess it's probably his. It looks like it's alive. And living in the fridge.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on Civic Media Radio Network. 23 past the hour of 3 o'clock. Zombers, where'd you find that?
That's a Weird Al, Living in the Fridge, a parody of an Aerosmith song.
I had never heard that one before.
I can't say I've heard that one
and
before
I'm
either. I heard it.
traditionally not a huge Weird Al fan, but that was pretty good.
He's got some good ones.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network, right in the middle of what's worse. Today's category, cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage. What's worse, cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Henry, listening on WMDX in beautiful Madison, Wisconsin, says cleaning the garage is worse because you never know when you're done. That's kind of true, right? Like if you have, it's like, well, I end up moving things around. I don't have my own garage proper anymore. But what I did, it was like move things to one side, then move to the other. So like I want to keep this, right? So 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Cam in Appleton, listening on WISS in Oshkosh, says, I'd rather the garage be cleaned. I get to sing and dance there. Well, that's true, right? You can move around more, I suppose, when you clean the garage. Jim in beautiful Brookfield says cleaning the garage is worse because it's hot and dusty. I also have a wife who cleans the fridge and has creative ways to use leftovers. Okay. That's fantastic. Off the online streaming services, we have PJ watching on YouTube. PJ, thank you so much. Says the fridge because I go in there more times per day. So that's worse to clean the fridge because he's going in there more often. Jerry Perry, our friend Jeff Perry, friend and ongoing contributor on Facebook, says, for me, the worst is cleaning the fridge in the garage. Thank you very much. Yeah, very good. But no, there's a lot. I don't know. Maybe it's a Richland Center thing. But a lot of people I know still do. You have the garage refrigerator. And it's where Summers is looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, that's not what the intent.
Oh, because you have some people keep their beer out there,
Right.
or their soda. It's great for holidays when you got like a bunch of desserts you refrigerated or leftovers, and you put them in the garage fridge. And usually it's an older refrigerator that doesn't work great,
Right.
but it's good enough for a garage fridge.
Exactly. That I feel like that's the most common garage fridge. You know, it's got the beer, it's got the soda, it's got your extra meats.
Your extra meats.
Well, that's the garage freezer.
That's the garage
like the
freezer.
old chest freezer has
Oh,
got
yeah.
all your,
Oh,
your
100%.
from the local meat locker.
Right. No,
Maybe some pizzas.
I got to go down to Monroe next week and mow some grass, and I'm going to have a garage refrigerator beer after I'm done.
That's the best kind.
I'll report back. 855-752-4842. Heather, watching on Facebook up there, beautiful Eau Claire, WCFW The Tap. Heather says, oh boy, tough one. At the moment, the garage equals half of a classroom, a leftover graduation party, boxes, staging area for college dorm room, camper transfer. As you know, Todd, there's a lot going on here. It's my sister. They have a lot going on. We don't have time. We literally don't have time to get into their garage situation. It's a lot. As Miguel Vega once said, that's a lot. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Zombers cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage. What's worse?
I think it depends whose fridge and whose garage. I know that it depends is always the worst answer for these. But if it is my parents' house, cleaning the garage is worse because there's a lot of stuff in there, like a lot. Meanwhile, if it's my place, I'm in a townhouse, so I do have a proper garage. However, we don't have a lot of stuff in it. So cleaning the fridge is definitely worse because, you know, there might be something spilled that you actually have to clean.
That's the part that gets me.
Yeah.
If something's spilled in the back and you got to scrub that up and you got to take things out, go ahead.
If something's spilled in the garage, you just like mop it or something.
Right.
Like, whereas if something's spilled in the fridge, it's a whole process.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. What's worse, cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage? Tom on the text line out of New Berlin, listening on WAUK's. Oh, don't worry about that one. That's something else on a caller. Judy, listening in Lodi on WMDX. Cleaning the fridge is worse. You don't know what you're going to find in there. There's a lot of truth to that. Have you ever done that? Have you ever opened the fridge and you smell something and you can't find it?
Yeah, that's the worst.
I know. And then it ends up being like, I don't know, like a small bottle of milk or something, or like you bought a Cool Whip or whipping cream and in a little pint container, and somehow it got behind like the beer and something else that you normally keep in there, and it got stuffed in the back, and then
I feel like that's a common culprit. Yeah, the whipping cream, because you don't use that much at a time, and you don't always use it like every week or whatever.
Or cheese you put in a baggie and then it gets covered up. I don't know. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, cleaning the fridge or cleaning the garage?
So are you officially agreeing with me and saying that cleaning the fridge is worse?
Quickly, Brett and Brown Deer says, I have OCD. I love cleaning them both.
Fair enough.
I don't know. It's such a tough one. I'm going to say cleaning. I don't know why. I'm going to say cleaning the fridge is worse. I want to say cleaning the garage because it's such a bigger space and you have to set more time aside for it. But I don't know. I feel like once I'm cleaning the garage, it can be kind of fun because like, oh, I forgot about that. Where cleaning the fridge is the only part that's good about it is when you're done, you're like, oh, that looks and smells so much better. Not that my fridge gets really stinky that often, but it's just, I don't know. And then I always end up throwing things away that I should have used. It's like, I paid $8 for that. Yes, that's it. I feel worse about myself. You'll feel better after our farm update from Pam Yonke, and then come back and talk about Line 5 pipeline on the other side. It's the Allbaugh Show for a Monday.
You're listening to 92.7 WMDX.
As Wisconsin is summer weekends being spent on the lake, this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
For many farmers, exports are top of mind, and that has been particularly true in the dairy industry. I'm Ben Jarbo with the Midwest Farm Report, and Matt Tranel, a dairy analyst with Everegg, is here to give a look into how the cheese exports are impacting the U.S. dairy industry.
The two most recent reports would say that we've had massive amounts of exports, 114 and 115 million pounds of cheese leaving our borders respectively. Both of those at the time of release were all-time record highs, and continues down the path that our cheese prices have been advantageous to world players, and that's really been the piece that has balanced our cheese market, because quite frankly, when we came into this year, we were looking at a market that had various headwinds with this new cheese capacity that's been discussed over and over across the country.
Matt Tranel with Everegg giving us the inside look on cheese exports. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Ben Jarbo, and we'll take a look at those closing markets right after this.
Unique farming operations need unique financial solutions. Egg Country Farm Credit Services offers customized financing that fits any size farm, ranch, or agribusiness. The next time you're in the market for more land, equipment, facilities, or maybe even an operating loan, contact the team at Egg Country. They know agriculture. And
also, I don't know if Todd has mentioned this yet. We're not live on the radio for another 3 minutes, but we are on the live stream on social media, just so you know.
The Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection.
I won't do anything inappropriate. Okay, sounds good.
We just like to let people know that it may show up somewhere. First of all, pronounce your last name.
Feinauer.
Feinauer.
Marketing support and a community of like-minded Wisconsin businesses. Best of all, you'll let people
Oh, there's no H in it. You got a misspelling. No.
You've always been something
Very
special.
common mistake.
EINAUER.
Correct. Welcome back.
Apologies for that.
Oh, no worries.
I like to get these things out of the way before we go on the air. The Brewers, for those watching the stream, are up 3-0, top of the 8th. How about that? Good news.
Cash soybeans are down 1.5 at 10.20 3/4.
Well, I had it correct in the podcast description, at least.
September wheat contracts are seeing a 3 3/4 loss at 5.02.
All right. Always like to start out with tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of where you grew up. What led you to get into environmental issues and the law a little bit, and then we'll have you talk a little bit about Clean Wisconsin, and then we'll get into the Line 5 pipeline, why it's important, what's going on, what Wisconsin I should know.
Perfect.
Pretty straightforward. I like to keep it conversational. I don't have like a list of 10 questions, so we're pretty laid back.
Okay, I'll be ready.
This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Mostly cloudy with rounds of rain expected today.
And staff attorney at Clean Wisconsin, is that your title? All right, very good. Cool.
You have a song request.
Walk-up music?
Walk-up music.
No, if I had been prepared in advance, I could have said
Sorry
something.
about that. We have a little bit of time, so if you do think of something, I can grab it quickly. So.
Completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed,
That's probably the hardest question I'm going to be asked. I'm stumped.
Probably. Zalmers has tougher questions on this program than I do. How about that, ladies and gentlemen?
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
The John and Gordy Show.
You know, we used to have John and Gordy arm wrestling tournaments.
Did we?
I don't remember that.
toured Greater Dane County. It got a little out of hand, and we decided that we had to call an end to it.
Some fistfights broke out. Catherine says I can take.
All right. Wherever it may lead, and having fun doing it. Welcome back to Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 35 now past the hour of 3 o'clock on this Monday, August 18th, 2025. Glad to have you along. Zommers on the board could give you an update over the air on many of our stations across the Civic Media Radio Network. On the Brewers Radio Network, Brewers kicking off an important, critical 5-game series against the Cubs in Chicago this afternoon. Can tell you the top of the 8th inning. Brewers 3, Cubs nothing. How about that? Hopefully the Brewers can hang on. Would go up to 9 games lead on the Brewers in the NL Central. If they could do that, you can listen to over the air on many of these stations. Richland Center, Oshkosh, Hayward, also down in Racine, Kenosha on the Brewers Radio Network. Second game, they had a rain out earlier in the season, so it's a doubleheader today. Second game later on this evening on many of these fine stations as well. Brewers 3, Cubs nothing in the top of the 8th. Right now, I want to turn our attention to another environmental issue. It's a theme here on the show today, conservation, environmental issues. We have at our desk once again here in studio, the world headquarters in Madison, Evan Feinhauer, who is the staff attorney of Clean Wisconsin. Evan, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
Great. It's great to be here, and I'm glad to get Brewers updates just mixed in. This is great.
Are you a Brewers fan?
I am. I was watching the score before I came here, so it was
crazy.
It was good to get updates.
What I mean, this run they've had, unfortunately, they all good things have to come to an end, but an exciting weekend series.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, we're not here just to talk to sports. There are other things that we're interested in here on the show as well. Conservation, and this is one of the things I love talking about because, to me, as somebody who grew up in Southwest Wisconsin and traveled all over the state, it's one of these things that should bind us together across party lines, ideally, because it doesn't matter whether you're a hunter or a bird watcher or a hiker or a kayaker. If we don't have a good environment in which to do all these things, we're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's the quintessential thing that you don't miss until it's gone.
Yeah, 100%. Before we get into this, we always like to have people tell us a little bit about themselves. Evan, you are no exception. So where did you grow up and how did you get into conservation and the law?
Well, I am from Wisconsin, hence being a Brewers fan. I grew up in Amaro, Wisconsin.
Oh, nice.
So East Central, just a little bit west of Oshkosh, for those not familiar. Grew up in the countryside where, unbeknownst to me, I was being raised to care a lot about the environment by my dad and my grandpa and other people that cared about birding and trees and natural prairie and all these things, wildflowers, native plants, all this stuff. So I come by it naturally. And then as I got older, I went to college here in Madison, went to UW, and then went on to law school in Chicago. Was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew I never wanted to work at a law firm. I wanted to do some kind of public interest law, and I started working in the environmental clinic at the University of Chicago Law School. Fell in love with that and just loved the work, loved the people that are in this fight, and I've been doing it ever since.
Really cool. So what led you to Clean Wisconsin then?
Yeah, so right out of law school, I had a fellowship. I worked at the Natural Resources Defense Council in Chicago, doing work related to the Flint lead and water crisis. After that, when my fellowship ended, a job opened up. Very lucky for me here in Madison at Clean Wisconsin in the staff attorney position. I applied. I've been working there since January 2017. So it's a little bit over 8 years now, I guess.
For folks that might not be familiar across the state, we're a statewide program. Tell us a little bit about Clean Wisconsin, the organization, what your key work is.
Yeah, so Clean Wisconsin has been around since 1970. It was perhaps ambitiously entitled Wisconsin's Environmental Decade originally.
I remember that.
Yeah, so
I'm old enough to remember that.
Yeah. So I think that there was an idea that 10 years was all it would take, which was not the case. And then it was renamed, rebranded, whatever you want to call it, Clean Wisconsin, at some point, I think in the early aughts. And we are a statewide organization. We have members across the state. We have scientists on staff. We have lawyers on staff like myself. We have lobbyists, subject matter experts in water, air pollution, everything. So we try to be effective by being in the courts like I do sometimes, but also up at the Capitol, working with state agencies to pass good rules, do outreach to local communities. We really try to be kind of full spectrum, do all the things, touch all the people across the state on environmental issues.
We're speaking with Evan Feinhauer, who is the staff attorney at Clean Wisconsin. Evan, talk to us about this issue called Line 5 pipeline. I think it's kind of ambiguous, and people are like, what the heck is that? Talk to us a little bit about what Line 5 pipeline is and why Wisconsinites should be concerned about it.
Yeah, so the Line 5 pipeline has been around since the 1950s. It goes through northern Wisconsin. It starts west of that in Minnesota, cuts across northern Wisconsin, goes through the UP, down into Michigan, lower Michigan, and then into Canada. And this is a pipeline section that is primarily intended and does carry oils from Canada through the United States and back into Canada. Some of it gets let off at facilities in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, some in Michigan, and then most of it ends up in Canada. The line is currently owned by Enbridge, which is a Canadian transnational corporation. They aren't the ones who originally built it, but they own it and operate it now. What's happened is a number of years ago, the Bad River Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, did not want to renew easements to have the existing line go across their reservation for environmental reasons and concerns that they had that the line might fail, causing a rupture and other ecological impacts. So they said, we're not going to renew the easements. That resulted in a bunch of federal litigation and federal court, actually very close to where we're sitting right now in the Western District, ordered the Enbridge to get off their land by sometime next year in 2026. So Enbridge then initiated a plan to build what's called the reroute. So now you can imagine it's sort of like a U shape that goes down and underneath the reservation and connects with the rest of the existing Line 5. So this was seen as, I think, by Enbridge as a solution to the problem of going around the band's property. But from their perspective, it's not, because it's still in the watershed. If there's an oil spill, it'll still completely wipe out the ecosystem where they live. And it's also going to mean a 41-mile stretch of new pipeline through major sections of northern Wisconsin, which are untouched, undeveloped, and relatively pristine from an environmental perspective.
One of the things that I was very fortunate in my time working at the Capitol for former Senator Dale Schultz was he was the a co-chair for a while of the Tribal State Relations Board, had a lot of chances to have meetings on tribes' lands and get to listen and understand their concerns. One of the things, and talk to us a little bit about this in terms of Line 5, one of the things I learned, particularly when on mining issues back at that time, that many of these lands that you're talking about, you mentioned the watershed. And I think some people are going to say, well, okay, fine, the pipe's going around that. What's the big deal? These tribal lands, these waters, are essentially their churches, their temples. These are religious purposes, these rice fields that have very sacred meaning to them. And so to me, I would encourage Wisconsinites to say, hey, if a company said, we want to build a pipeline through your church, how would you feel? Is that an overreaction to that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm like you, somebody who's had to do a lot of self-education on this. I was just up in the reservation last week, meeting with attorneys representing the Bad River Band, and I got a chance to go to. They have a cultural museum there on the reservation, and it was, really interesting. I learned a lot, but it's also very moving to see these portraits of their life ways and their customs that go back decades and generations, and those include things like harvesting wild rice from these wild rice beds that are really the most precious and some pretty rare in the Great Lakes. They're the biggest. They're very proud of them, I think, with good reason. And I think that that's something that we should all be sensitive to for cultural reasons, as you mentioned. And it also just points to the tie-in between how we live our lives and the quality of the environment. The pipeline that they want to build, the new section, would be sort of upriver, if you will, of the reservation. So if there were a spill or if there was release of sediment or anything from construction or any kind of water quality impact, it would proceed down gradient. And there are wetlands of national and international significance. They're what's called Ramsar wetlands, the Kokugan sloughs. These are really precious resources that would be directly at risk if anything went wrong.
I think it's a great way to explain it. And again, I would encourage Wisconsinites to put it, think of your favorite fishing spot or your favorite hunting spot. And if that were put in danger, How would you feel about this, let alone the cultural and religious aspects for it? Again, we're talking with Evan Feinhauer, the staff attorney at Clean Wisconsin, on this Line 5 pipeline that's being proposed, a reroute in northern Wisconsin. What do you say to folks that are like, well, this is the old NIMBY, not in my backyard, this, that we have to have energy, even if you're a pro, alternative energy person, we're not there yet. We need oil. Where do you put it if not here? What's your response to that type of reaction?
Yeah, I have a couple different responses. So first is the way our law is written is intended to protect our resources from development, kind of no matter what the development is. So if you're in the state of Wisconsin and you want to fill in or impact a wetlands or cross a stream or a river, you got to get certain permits from the Department of Natural Resources. And the way our law is written, thankfully, it doesn't say, well, you can only get a permit of X, Y, and Z unless you want to build an oil pipeline, in which case you have an exemption. It doesn't say that. And so to some extent, the first thing I want to say is, great, if Enbridge wants to do this, they can, but they have to meet the same standards as everybody else. And those standards want to make sure that when you're done with your project, the water resources are in no worse condition. And there's some verbiage around this that the lawyers will use, wetland functional values and these things. But we just don't think they've met that standard. We think DNR made a mistake by issuing the permits. And I think it's important because I don't think we want a standard that slides up and down based on how socially important or economically important we think the development is. And if we want that, then the legislature has to pass a law that says that. And they haven't done that. So to me, it's kind of just like that's not what the law is. The other piece of it, though, I think what you're getting at is with this point about we're not there yet, we still use oil and gas. I think that one of Enbridge's things that they're very clearly keen on is they want to make it seem like we have to build this pipeline reroute. Otherwise, everything will grind to a halt. And I think many of their statements in that regard are overstated. And, I'm not an oil man. As I mentioned, I grew up in East Central Wisconsin, which is low on oil. But just reading the record and the other experts, there's sort of been a bunch of competing experts who have weighed in on this over the years. And there seems to be a legitimate question about what would be the economic impacts. Would there be other ways of getting the oil to market? To me, it's a little bit besides the point for the purpose of the question is, should Wisconsin bear the risk and the ecological damage that this company can stick a pipeline through our state?
Couple of quick follow-up questions here before the break. We'll come back and finish it up after that. But am I correct in saying that the oil, the product that flows through this pipeline, none of that stops in Wisconsin? At least there's no direct. People aren't that stuff isn't going from there into gas stations in Oconomowoc or Oshkosh.
No, what most of the way that these products would end up in Wisconsin markets is in the form of propane, but it's a relatively modest mix of the state's propane sources.
So it's kind of asking, is it overstated to say that Wisconsin's being asked to take the risk in our resources for very little return directly to people that might consume things?
I think that's fair, and I would say I think that's generally true of all of these things that are fossil fuel pains that we feel to get no benefit, because we don't have coal in Wisconsin, we don't have oil, we don't have gas. And so whenever there's things that we're suffering because of fossil fuels, we're not just suffering health and environmental impacts, we're also sending money outside of our state's borders.
You mentioned that the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources already approved some of these things. My question was this under a DNR secretary and administration of Governor Evers or Governor Walker?
Well, this just happened. This happened in December of last year. So this was when Evers was the governor. And yes, they issued the permits late last year after a pretty long process of looking at it, because they did something called an environmental impact statement. They issued the permits, and then my group and others filed the lawsuit.
And I find that very, very interesting, because I think the stereotype out there is, oh, well, Democrats would never approve something like this and let it go through. Here you have a Democratic administration, Tony Evers, and as people at Clean Wisconsin, have you guys? Is there a money looking at who's making? Well, the music's coming up. We'll wait. We'll get the answer. That's what they call a tease, ladies and gentlemen. We'll find out from our guest here at the table, Evan Feinhauer, staff attorney for Clean Wisconsin. Always follow the money. That's what I learned when I worked up the street at the building. Come on back. We'll find out the answer to that and more. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show across Wisconsin. Brewers up 7-0 in the 8th in Chicago. Come on back. What happened in 5 minutes? It was 3-0 and now it's 7.
It was 6 not long ago.
Somebody must have hit a big home run. Hey, Gordy. All right, if you don't know the answer, then that's fine. I
have an answer. I don't know if you'll be.
I need to talk to you. That's fine. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And then is there any other parts of the issue you want to make sure we cover? We'll have about 6-ish minutes when we come back.
Yeah, I think we've talked about a pipeline. Do we need it? Risk of a spill, but I do want to talk about just kind of like the value of the water resources that are risk.
Sure.
That's really what the subject of the lawsuit is.
Okay.
It's really not about oil spills or these energy markets. That's in some ways kind of a distraction from what the law says. So I just want to focus on just the extent and the quality of these waters that could be impacted.
Awesome.
So you were on an episode of The Defender at the end of July talking about this. If I link that in the show notes, is that appropriate or is that an out-of-date discussion?
I think it's still good.
Okay.
It was from July.
Yeah, 27th or something?
That would be fine because nothing has fundamentally changed between now and then.
I figured, but just wanted to double check.
It's good to ask.
Cool. Yeah, when I worked for Dale, I was one of the coolest things in all my years in politics to go there and just listen and just hear from native leaders the stories and the explanation. And I thought, boy, if more Wisconsinites could just hear that.
Yeah, the more I've learned, the more I'm kind of embarrassed that it took me into my 30s to learn a lot of this stuff. And so I think I got little kids, and so I think about making sure that they learn some of this stuff as they grow up in a more intentional way than I did. Yeah,
totally
for sure.
agree.
Yeah. Field trips, birthday parties, service days, and their new Paws and Pages reading program. Learn more at
4 runs in the 8th, ladies and gentlemen, for the Brewers.
When I'm done here, I'm gonna draw my phone and I'm gonna check the box score.
You want to feel important. You want to be part of something bigger, something that matters.
They have to play again later today, right?
7, I think. Ish.
Sounds exhausting to me.
I know, right? We felt that way too, and that's why we did something about it.
We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers.
We are normal people just like you, but our part-time service in the Army National Guard means we get to be more.
When our communities are in need, we get the chance to stand up and do something about it.
We get to serve in our own region and help the people we call neighbors.
From the lake shores of Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota.
The fertile fields of Indiana, Illinois,
30
and
seconds.
Iowa.
Gracias. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network, where it's now 8 minutes before the hour of 4 o'clock. At the top of the hour, ABC or CBS News, depending upon which of our great stations you're listening to. A check of weather. Rain continues for parts of Wisconsin into the evening, and then our great sports reporter Mike Clemens in with a sports report. We'll do one of our own right now, Zommers. Can tell you it's the top of the 9th, and the Brewers are up 7-0 over the Chicago Cubs in game 1 of a doubleheader. You can hear the second game a little bit later this evening. Starts with a 6:30 pregame show. 7 o'clock or thereafter, the first pitch as the Brewers take on the Cubs in the second of a doubleheader. You can hear it on RCE in Richland Center, ISS in Oshkosh, RJN, Racine, Kenosha, CQM in beautiful Park Falls, our newest Brewers affiliate. The Buzz of the North, WBZH in Hayward, Wisconsin. We'll continue to monitor that. Sitting here at the table, the world headquarters in downtown Madison with a fellow Brewer fan. He is Evan Feinhauer, the staff attorney at Clean, Wisconsin. Good news, Evan, for the Brewers.
Of course. I'm excited.
That's good news. Not so good news if we're concerned about Wisconsin's environment. We're talking about this Line 5 pipeline. Really interesting work at Clean, Wisconsin. I appreciate you coming on the show. I wanted to follow up on this question I started beforehand, and I think it's important for listeners and viewers to understand this was approved by the DNR recently under the Tony Evers administration. I think a lot of people think, well, how could that happen? As someone who spent a lot of time in politics, I learned to follow the money. Have you at Clean Wisconsin done this? Is there been a lot of money from these interests in the industry to the Evers campaign or Evers administration?
So the thing that's interesting is I think people think that somebody in my job as an environmental lawyer would be focused on those kind of issues. But the answer, I think, is a lot more boring in terms of what my work looks like, which is I focus on what the statutes say and all the information the agency's given, and it's way nerdier than that. And I think it would be, in some ways, fun if we had some fun, theory about money changing hands. But I think really what this is about is they apply for these permits, and it puts the department in a tough spot. I don't think they want to say no. I think that's true no matter who's in charge. And so I think what they do is they try to be really diligent and do their best under tough circumstances and with limited resources, and they don't always get there. And then I think they really want to get to yes, even if maybe they feel like they should say no. And this was one of the times when they should have said no, and I think they said yes. And what they often do is they'll say, here's your permit, and we've loaded it up with conditions that make it clear that you can't harm the environment from our point of view. And then you look at the conditions and you're like, this looks more like it's DNR feeling good about the product it put out than necessarily always protecting the environment. Sometimes the conditions are great and there's no problem. But this was a situation where I think what happened is they were trying to get to yes. They're going to load it up with these conditions and then hope that, kind of cross their fingers and hope nothing goes wrong. And then that way they can say, we let the development proceed and we protected the environment. We have our cake, we eat it too. The problem as an environmentalist is there's just things that sometimes should be no's. They should be denials. Everything can't be a yes, but. Sometimes the answer just needs to be no. And so I think the simpler, less interesting answer is that I think these agencies have a lot of inertia to get to yes because they don't want to be in the way of infrastructure that's deemed important by the person who wants to make a bunch of money by building the infrastructure.
Let's get to the lawsuit itself that you're a part of here. And let's talk a little bit about the value of water resources, which I think during the break you said is really the crux of this, of what you're fighting on.
Yeah, so it's important to emphasize that this challenge is a challenge to permits to impact water resources, wetlands and waterways in particular. And one of the things that's awesome about Wisconsin is that we require you to get a permit anytime you're going to impact a wetland, with some exemptions. But here, you have to meet strong standards because we've come to understand how valuable wetlands are in terms of reducing the severity of floods, providing habitat, keeping our water clean, making sure the surface to groundwater flow is normal in the way it's supposed to be. And it sets a pretty high bar. And here, that's super relevant because we're not talking about, a puddle in a degraded farm field somewhere that's been super developed. We're talking about northern Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about places where you go out there and you look and there's not a single invasive species. And it looks like, it's hard to even get to some of these places on foot, you got to trudge through a bunch of wilderness with waders on, and you got to wear mosquito nets because the bugs. Yeah. These are places that haven't been touched by man. Yeah. And so it's important to emphasize we got not that many of these places left, and we should be really, really protective of the ones we have and hold everybody to a super high bar if they're going to come in and dredge and blast and tunnel through these places.
I agree. It's such an important point that once these places like this are gone, you're never going to get them back. It's or at least very, very difficult in a generation.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that the parties are disagreeing about. That's our position is you're going to impact these places and you're not going to be able to put them back together again. And Enbridge says, no, we have a plan. We'll come in here, we'll tear it all up, but then Humpty Dumpty will go back together again, and we'll be okay. And we're skeptical that that's the case. That's a big dispute in the case.
Assuming it's cleanwater cleanwisconsin.org,
yes.
cleanwisconsin.org. Really important. People can still have time to put public testimony in right now, continuing through October, I see, and people can email in or they have to show up, or how do they get involved?
Well, unfortunately, if you wanted to testify, the deadline for that actually would have been last week. So
it doesn't continue into October? All right.
No, we still have a live testimony component in October, but the judge set a requirement that folks had to show up through the link last week and do that. So that's been closed, unfortunately.
So They just
We
have to- they have
we
to-
gave you bad information.
No,
it
no,
seems like.
I wouldn't say that. I would just Todd can't read very well. But people can, if they wanted to, go to cleanwisconsin.org and make a donation to the cause.
Well, I would never say no to that.
And stay informed, because I think, people explaining things in real terms like you've done today, I really appreciate that. The more we understand what's going on, the more we can build coalitions to preserve Wisconsin's resources, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, Evan Feinhauer, the staff attorney at Clean Wisconsin. Thanks for coming in today. Thanks for all the great work you're doing, and go Crew.
Yeah, it was great to be here. Thanks.
Our pleasure. Stay tuned. Maggie Dawn is next. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Again, 7-0 right now in the the bottom of the ninth. Crew trying to get one and a doubleheader later on. Todd Allbaugh say we'll see you tomorrow. Whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Banging on your drum, and they will hear you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Adios.
Thanks,